Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Kris. This is How Do They Teach the American Revolution in Britain? This is Today I Found Out. You can help me out. See, I'm going to show you. Let me get this over there. See, watch. Just look how easy this is. Click. I'm not being charged at all. This is how easy it is. So if you can do that for me, bare minimum, please. Subscribe to the channel if you like the content. You can click on that thanks button. Donate to the channel. Keep the channel running. All right, let's see how they teach the American Revolution in Britain.
This video is made possible by the Great Courses Plus, an on-demand video learning service, learning your own pace with no tests and no schedules. Check out the Great Courses Plus through the link in the description below. More about them a little later. The American Revolution is one of the historical events that, together with things like the French Revolution among other things, helped usher in the modern era. The Americans, on the whole, tend to be proud of this event and focus on it heavily in their school curriculum, as it heralds the birth of their nation and the triumph of a handful of terrorists against their government and fellow countrymen. But what do schools in Britain have to say about the American Revolution? To begin with, on the surface, if one talks to people on the street or reads a British book on the subject, Americans will perhaps be positively surprised to see that today there are no hard feelings in England regarding the Americans' choice to leave the glorious British Empire. May it reign forever. But really, we don't care. It seems like a peachy divorce with no grudges held or hostile views taken. After all, for the last century at least, the UK has been the closest ally of the US in Europe, with mutual support in all major conflicts of the 20th century.
I would just say that if there are any Americans that are looking at the British and thinking, I want to fight them again. I want to do it this is the third one, baby. I want to do it. I don't know what's wrong with you. And if there's a British person going, I want to reclaim those colonies. I want to make them ours. And time has passed. We're all working together now. We're moving forward. We're like bestest buddies now. We've probably each bought each other necklaces. Like one has, like the little heart shape thing where it's like best and the other one says friend. Yeah, that's how we are now. That's how we view each other now. Related. Yeah,
and both follow similar policies so consistently that the UK has, on occasion, been ironically referred to as the 52nd state. But there is a catch. While the American Revolution is a cornerstone of American history, in Britain, well, it seems that the subject of the American War of Independence, as it is known in the UK, is rarely mentioned in British education books of past and present, or at least not in any...
Real fast, I always point this out on this painting because it's a fascinating painting. Obviously, Washington. This is represented to be Billy Lee, or William Lee, which was Washington's right-hand man, slave, his manservant, stuff like that. Billy Lee was considered just like the man. This represents James Monroe, the future 5th president, who did serve under Washington, was shot in the neck and had an artery like severed, fell down, and the guy he basically fell next to was the only other doctor on the field. The other doctor on the field, I believe, had been killed, which wasn't near him. He was saved. And then this right here represents Daniel Boone. I believe it's Daniel Boone. Or is it Davy? No, it's not Davy Crockett. This represents Daniel Boone. So, yeah, just let me check. I want to make sure it's Daniel Boone, but I want to make sure that it's not Davy Crockett. For some reason, that name's coming into my head. Okay. I cannot find anything. Not Davy Crockett. He was born in 1786, according to the research I just did on my phone. So this was before then. I've heard this is Daniel Boone. But I can't find anything on it now. This guy right here holding his hat is, what was it? Edmund Hand, I just learned. And then I think this guy right here is Nathaniel Greene, represented to be. Now, were they on the boat? I don't think so. But I know they were painting a bunch of people to, I mean, clearly this isn't the type of boat, and he wasn't standing like this, but they were depicted names, so that it would represent strength and all that stuff.
Great detail. That's not to say it's not mentioned anywhere, simply that while they may learn a little about early American history, including the War of Independence, it's more of a footnote in British history. It's probably also worth mentioning that when it is mentioned, it is never seen from a nationalistic point of view. For example, we don't angrily shake our fists at a picture of Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin. Rather, it's covered frankly, and then we move on swiftly to more interesting and relevant subjects to British history. For example, the focus in history is much more centered around things like the Roman times. For example, the legendary resistance of Queen Boudicca against the might of Rome, or later periods such as the 100 Years' War and the intrigues of the Tudors generally trying to keep track of all the beheadings in the Tower of London. In more modern times, emphasis is put on issues such as industrialization, colonialism, and the post-colonization era, as well as the events during the World Wars and internal reforms.
I think that, and this might be ridiculous to think, every country's going to focus on themselves and their history before they're going to try to care about the world. Now, your history might be intertwined with another country. Ours is intertwined with England or UK, British, however, I don't know how to say it anymore. French, Spain. We got a little bit of Russia. Canada, obviously, Mexico. But these are things that would affect us more. So we're going to learn about that before we expand out. America doesn't have a very big history, and I think that's why we try to focus on it in school. But a lot of the things in school, I've learned more just reading out of school than I did, I think, learning, because a lot of the things you learn in school are the myths of things that happened. And it's like, we shouldn't, looking back on it, that shouldn't have been taught. I shouldn't have spent a whole day about Washington throwing a rock over the Potomac River. It didn't happen. I cannot tell a lie. I chopped down a cherry tree. Didn't happen. So you're going to focus on your own country. So to England, how many colonies did England have? We're a footnote. We're the one that they lost. But we're not. When you look at the Revolutionary War, look at where we were just here, minus John Paul Jones, who was, fighting as a pirate off the coast of England. They were all over the world fighting. We were just a little footnote in that war to them. So,
as to the aggression of the British Empire, while many certainly complain that it's not fully represented, it is far from omitted. British imperialism, for example in Africa, is of course addressed. So why not focus on the American War of Independence and the birth of one of the most influential nations in modern history? It seems that the lack of details when teaching about American independence is not due to shame, envy, or part of a continuous effort to hide the UK's colonial past, as, say, the case might be in Japan. Rather, the main reason is the unspectacularly trivial fact that the American Revolution is seen as a minor detail in comparison to other events directly related to British history. The US breaking off was simply just one of many nations that did it for a whole lot of reasons. Indeed, if one looks at the larger scope...
Look at the Spanish-American War. Not a ton taught here. We know Theodore Roosevelt was involved, right? Because he San Juan Hill and everything like that with Cuba. We got some Spanish territory, I believe the Philippines. Anyways, we don't hear a lot of the war that we had there. We don't learn a whole lot about that. Why? Well, what's his name? Arthur MacArthur, General MacArthur. I can't even think. Not Dwight MacArthur. Anyways, I'm looking up at the book trying to find the name. But Arthur MacArthur, the father of the World War II general for America. Apologies, can't think of the first name. But his father was basically sent there to fight and take control of that island or the chain of islands and to basically make the people submit because they didn't want to be, I'll say, a colony of the Americas. We don't learn a lot about that. But I bet you in the Philippines, that's massive because it affected them more.
More than 60 countries celebrate independence from the British Empire, which in its heyday had control over 1/5 of the globe's population. That would amount to, on average, one Independence Day celebration of a country every week in a given school year. A phlegmatic English answer would be to say that we have better things to focus on than every country's Independence Day. So, the American Revolution is equated with other similar events, and it is rather addressed as an armed uprising of an important but distant rural populace against taxes, so hardly unique in history. The importance of ideas such as enlightenment, freedom, and democratic values are viewed by Americans on the basis of their revolution as one prime example thereof. But the schools in the UK, similar to most European countries, focus on other incidents. Some of them are closer to home and widely acknowledged as shaping history, such as the French Revolution. Another example is the post-colonialism era in Asia and Africa as one of the main facets of world history. These, rather than American independence, are considered to provide the historical depth necessary for such discussions in the UK classrooms. Thus, the War of American Independence will most likely come up as an addendum, providing context when dealing with the French Revolution or with trade regulations within the British Empire as an example of a taxation policy gone wrong. It can also be related to the long-term effects of the 7 Years' War, which may be considered one of the causes that would eventually lead to the higher taxation that in turn ignited the revolutionary actions in the Americas.
And to this day, completely understand why they wanted to raise taxes in America. Did they have the right to? Absolutely. We were part of their colonial system. Completely 100%. Yes. We were already paying taxes, but our taxes were internal. They stayed in the country. By that, I mean the individual states. So we were already paying it, but we were paying money to improve our own roads, trails, whatever you want to call them, because they weren't really roads like we know today. But, to get people here and there, maybe for rivers, not to build rivers, but to maybe dredge them a little bit so you could have some traffic going through there. Whatever. We were paying for that. I understand being taxed, but yes, also being represented, you kind of want that. So the no taxation without representation was big, but I think at the same time, we were a colony, so we really didn't deserve a say. And there you go. That's... but the French and Indian War, or we call it the French and Indian War, the world calls it the 7 Years' War. Winston Churchill calls it the first true world war. And yeah, I mean, that cost them a lot. And we would be no different had we done that and we wanted to raise money. Protecting a colony, that we want to raise the money to from that colony for the protection that we offered. And if they got mad, I could totally see looking at it going, well, we were just there. We just helped you. So I would be in the same boat as the British were probably, the Parliament and the people were probably looking at it like, we went across the ocean to help you. Ungrateful people. Yeah, I get it.
Of course, that does not mean that American history is shunned from British schools, far from it. The developments of civic rights, the role of American industrialization, the combined efforts with the British in the World Wars and the Cold War are placed highly in various stages of the curriculum, be it in the early key stages of the English system or adapted for older students of 15 to 18 years, such as during the A-level and GCSE exams. To give an example within the history books provided by AQA, that's a blast from the past. Out of more than 30 titles covering the period from the Crusades up to the 21st century to refer directly to the USA. The Making of a Superpower, USA, 1865 to 1975, and The American Dream, Reality and Illusion, 1945 to 1980. The titles are indicative of the thematic stressed in each book. Notice that there is no book specifically dealing with the USA before 1861. Besides these reasons, the lack of emphasis on the American Revolution could be seen as related to the political scene within the UK itself. The UK is regarded by some as a fragile nation, as emphasized by much talk of independence by individual regions, especially in the last decade. The independence of a mainly English-speaking American colony, which is also culturally related to England, is much more on par with the Scottish or North Irish independence movements than, say, the Indian independence of 1947. But to sum up, in general, the American Revolution is not negatively portrayed in British schools, as some might first assume. Rather, it is seen as one of many world history events which are linked to the understanding and teaching of UK history without being particularly vital to it, and thus not really worth covering in depth.
I will say this. In London, there is a statue of George Washington. The Queen, when she was alive, I shouldn't have had to say that when she was alive. Of course, the Queen visited, when she visited America, she went to Mount Vernon. So there isn't a hatred. There is just this understanding that happened. We can't be mad today over what happened in the 1700s. You know, if you're British and you're looking at it, you know, like, oh, I can't believe that happened 250 years ago. It's past. It is what it is. A lot of things happen in the past. So, you know, you're not going to get mad at that. So, I believe Washington was voted as the #1 villain of the British people because he was at the battles and whatnot. I could be wrong on that, but I remember hearing that he was voted as their #1 villain. But he's not a villain like I would say they might look at Napoleon or Hitler. Those are different villains to them.
And I'll just add on a personal note here that when we started doing this series of how is so-and-so taught in another part of the world, someone asked me this on Twitter, and my response is it's just not taught. We don't really look at it. And, well, now you've had the more in-depth answer. And you know what else is worth covering in depth? Literally every subject available from our friends at the Great Courses Plus, which is an on-demand library of wonderful courses that help you get all kinds of wicked smart, like those rabble-rousing colonial Americans. No, really, we don't mind. If you're enjoying this video, I think you'll really enjoy their course on the age of Benjamin Franklin. Or if you want to zoom out a little bit, maybe check out their broader course, A History of the United States, 2nd edition. That one's absolutely massive. It's an 84-part exploration of American history, and those 84 parts, I think they're like half an hour each, so that's not a joke. Basically, the Great Courses Plus is like a university education, but it's at your own pace. No tests, no schedules, and it's incredibly easy to access. PC, tablet, phone. They've also got audio streaming, very convenient, so you can learn and listen, or listen and learn, on the move. There are thousands of lectures to choose from, so it's great stuff. Try it out for free at thegreatcoursesplus.com/brainfood, or click the link in the description below, and let's get into today's bonus fact.
So I was going to point this out. This is a book I have. It's called From Colony to Superpower. And, it's... Oh, come on. It's a massive book. I have not read it, but just right off the top, there are 964 pages. I'm phasing again. And there's a section in here with, it's probably 30 pages of pictures, paintings from the painting by Benjamin West portrays the peacemakers of the American Revolution. From left to right, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Henry Laurens, and William Temple Franklin. British diplomats refused to sit for the painting, leaving it unfinished. And that is the painting. Oh, it's on the cover here. You can kind of see that I can't really bring it too close. You can actually start to see through it. But the painting, is unfinished. And this is a book that I would love to read, but it's just, it's one of those books where there's like 964 pages and I think there's like 13 chapters. And you're like, oh, good God. I like to tackle books in chapters where I can read it, knock out a chapter, come back to it. Give me 10, 15, 20 page chapters. I feel like I can just rifle through it. But I'm looking at that like, oh, maybe I'll jump into it. By that, I mean, I'm just saying it because it sounds good, but I probably won't.
Ever wonder what the difference between the UK, England, and Great Britain is? Honestly, yes, sometimes, even as a British man. The actual name of the sovereign state we are talking about here is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, the UK. The United Kingdom is made up of the countries England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. The confusion...
My mom was born on the military base in Munich, Germany, after World War II, 1947, and she moved to Wales. My dad was born in London in 1945 during the war. And my grandmother, I almost said my mom, my grandmother was giving birth to him when a bomb went off nearby and fractured the mantle above the fireplace. They went back in 2004 and it was still cracked. It was crazy. They went to the house. I think I've said this before. Went to the house. My mom, my dad, my grandmother, my dad's mom, knocked on the door and the lady answered and she's like, hi. And they were like, how you doing? My grandma's like, I gave birth to him here. Is the mantle still broken? Still cracked? And the lady goes, come on in, I'll put on some tea. And then told them, walk around the house. Just, is it what you remember? That would never happen here. Too nice. Too nice. But since he's talking facts, my mom's family was going to move from Wales to London. And then my grandpa decided he wanted to move back to America because he was from America. My Nana, as we called her, was from England. On the other side of the family, my grandma was born in Italy, moved to England. And my grandpa, both grandpas were born in America, in Illinois. My mom's family was going to move from Wales to London and instead move to America. My dad's family went ahead and moved to America pretty much the same time. Had they stayed in London, had they moved to London and my dad stayed in London, they would have went to the same school. They moved to America, both in Peoria. They live 2 blocks away from each other. They go to the same school. So, pretty cool story.
Of the terms seems to revolve around the term country and the political powers that are perceived based on that word. While the 4 countries that make up the UK are generally considered separate in the minds of locals, and in certain sporting events their powers for local law and control are devolved from the UK. Think of the 50 states of the United States. While each state has their own set of laws, they are all under the power of the federal government. In the case of the UK, it is somewhat similar, though certain responsibilities are also implied, like healthcare and education, that are delegated to 3 of the 4 countries. The responsibilities that are delegated differ from one country to the next. England is the only country in which the UK does not devolve any powers, and instead it is legislated directly by the UK government. When it comes to international politics, it is the sovereign nation of the UK that is recognised, and not any of the 4 constituent countries. The term Great Britain refers to the landmass that comprises England, Scotland, and Wales. Something that aids in the confusion as to the difference between Great Britain and the UK is that the term is sometimes internationally used as a synonym for the UK. For instance, the UK's Olympic team competes under the name Great Britain, and the ISO, International Organization for Standardization, gives the UK the country codes of GB and GBR. This can be confusing given that the ISO also codes England, Scotland, and Wales as subdivision countries of the UK, but Northern Ireland as a subdivision province. If you're getting the impression that Northern Ireland is the red-headed stepchild of the UK, you may be right, both figuratively and literally, we suppose. The confusion over the definition of these four countries in reference to the UK is further muddied up in sporting competitions. There are several international sporting events like the Commonwealth Games and football competitions in which each of the four has their own team and they do not compete under a unified national team. When competing under these conditions, their nations are referred to as home nations. Because each team is from a specific home country, it can lead some to think that these countries have political autonomy as well. If you're curious about when these unions between the countries that comprise the UK came about, it happened as follows. England and Wales were joined in 1536. Scotland and England were joined together in 1707, along with the previously joined Wales, to officially form the Kingdom of Great Britain. Ireland decided to join up in 1801, at which point the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland was formed. In 1922, however, many of the southern counties of Ireland decided to remove themselves from the Union, and the UK changed their name to the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So, in summary, Great Britain is England, Scotland, and Wales. The UK is England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and the full name is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. England is just the part of the island that is England. So I really hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, check out...
Wow. The largely forgotten airship disaster that helped kill the cruise ships of the sky. Oh, that was... Oh my goodness, Kris. My memory's just going away. Why is it not coming to me? I can hear the radio announcer. Oh, it's a travesty. Oh my goodness. It's not at all ringing a bell. Anyway, I'm going to end the video, and then in 30 seconds I'll be like, so we'll go ahead and end it here. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed. And Luftwaffe came into my mind, and that's not it. The something disaster. The blank disaster. Nope. It's not Gallipoli. That's World War I. I apologize if you're yelling at the screen right now. It's just not, it is not coming to me. The blank disaster. Well, sorry about that. It's just not hitting. So we're ended here. Until next time, have a good day, have a good night. Nope.